Hey, little Norsemen families. My name is Mrs. Hall, and I'm the art teacher for the kindergarten through 12th graders in Suttons Bay. Thought it'd be nice to do a special little art project with you all. So I made you these paint palettes, and you might be wondering what it is. It's tempera paint that I put on the paper plate and then let it dry. So it acts as like a tempera cake is what we call them at school, but it's just basically like some nice water-soluble paint that we can use to paint with. So what you're going to need is your paint. You're going to need some paper, which I included in those Ziploc bags for you. And then you're going to need to use a cup that your family will not mind using for paint. Sometimes what you can do is use like an old container that was in the recycling bin, something like that. And then of course your brush. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got my brush, I've got my paper, got my water, and I've got my paint tray. We're ready to go. So the way that we use this paint is we have to use water to make it activate. Now, we don't pour water on it because that would make a huge mess. The way that we do it is we take our brush and we'll get it wet in our water. And then when we pull our brush out of the cup, we always wipe on the side. So you never want to go bang and hit the brush because it splatters everywhere. Just pretend that your paintbrush is a little character, and that would give him an awful headache, wouldn't it? He has a beautiful hair, and it would give him a headache to smack him against the cup like that. So we don't do that. Get him wet, and then you can wipe him on the side just like that. That's the way to do it. Get it wet and then wipe it on the side. Now, let's think about what color we want to use first. Let's go ahead and paint a rainbow first. You can do what you want, but this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with red, and I'm going to go over to my red, and I have my wet brush, and I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to kind of just swirl my brush on top of the paint. Now, I'm not smashing it down as hard as I can and twisting it. If you do that, twist, 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 oh, it's gonna end up messing up the hair, and it'll make the brush, instead of coming to a nice point, it'll go bleh. Okay, so it's good practice to kind of go, just kind of dance along the paint. And if it seems like it's getting kind of dry, which it does to me, I'm gonna go back and get a little bit more water on my brush, and I'm gonna go over and just go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5. Now I'm going to try and paint with it and see what happens. Yeah. Got a nice big arch for my rainbow. I'm going to get my brush wet again. If it seems like it's kind of dry, you might need to get a little bit more water, and then you just kind of go over here and you kind of dance your little paintbrush on there. I can paint over that line again so it's nice and bright. Alright, so I'm going to switch to orange next, but when I switch my color, I want to make sure that I clean my brush so that there isn't a whole bunch of red on it. Otherwise it'll make all my colors turn all the same color. We want to keep them all their own color. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to swish it, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that might be pretty good, so I'm going to wipe it on the side. Go over here and I'm going to kind of dance on my orange. Once you start painting, like when they're really dry, it takes a little while to get them to loosen up and start to work. But once you start painting, you're going to notice that it's going to be easier and easier to get the paint because it'll sort of absorb some water and soften up, and then you can paint with it a little bit better. Okay, so I think I've danced along the paint pretty well. I'm going to try and make another line. Yeah, that's pretty nice. If it seems like it's getting, see how dry that is? It's called dry brushing. Sometimes we like to use that when we're trying to paint like trees and things. We'll use a dry brush technique, but if I don't like that dry, I'm going to dip my brush in the water, go back to my paint a little bit more, and then we'll try it a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm getting a smoother line because it's not too dry. All right, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5. So the order of our rainbow goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So I have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So I'm going to do yellow next. And I'm just got my brush wet, and I'm kind of dancing along it. Maybe I'll get it wet again real quick. Dance along the yellow paint with my water. And we'll try our next one. Nice. Now, if you started to go into your yellow and you think, why does my yellow look more orange? It could be that you didn't rinse your brush enough. So if you don't rinse your brush enough, it's going to carry some of the paint to the next color. And sometimes if you do that too much, it'll kind of make all of the colors sort of all turn brown. And brown is a beautiful color. It's the color of tree trunks and of earth and of chocolate, but we want to have all of our colors separate. So I'll show you how to make brown in a little bit here. It's important to know how to make brown. There we go. Got green. So hopefully you're getting the idea. You have to get your brush wet, and then you go to your color and you sort of dance along the color with your paintbrush. And ooh, I got a really vibrant blue. That's pretty. And now I'm gonna do my purple. I'm not sure what brushes you're gonna have in your kits. So if you have a bigger brush, you might have to make your rainbow a little bit bigger. You might just have to change your plan a little bit from what I'm doing, and that's okay. Here we go. So now I've softened up all of these paints, and they're gonna be a little bit easier to use next time, well, while I'm working, while they're still a little damp. I can go back over some of my lines, and that's pretty fun. So there's also white and black, and I haven't used those yet, but let's say that we want to lighten up a color. Sometimes you can get a little bit of white on your brush, and then if you add a little bit of white, it might lighten the color a little bit. So if you lighten red, it's gonna make pink. And if you lighten blue, it's gonna make a light blue. See, if I add some white here, it's gonna make it a little bit lighter, see that? Always rinsing my brush when I switch colors. There we go. So if we wanted to make, I'm gonna go ahead and grab another sheet of paper. Let's say that we want to make a pine tree and we want to have a brown trunk on the bottom. With this paint, normally what you could do is you could mix every color together and that'll make brown, but a quicker way to do it is to take black and orange and mix them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my orange, and I'm going to put a little orange down on the paper for my trunk of my tree. And then I'm gonna just get a little bit of black and mix it on right on my paper. And that kind of makes, right now it's looking kind of gray. Oh, there we go, now it's mixing. It's making a brown, see? For a second it looked kind of gray. I'm gonna get a little bit more orange on it. Orange and black make a really nice brown. Yeah, that's a beautiful brown for my pine tree I'm about to make. Perfect. So now I can use my green and start to paint my pine tree. Do you know what shape a pine tree is? It's like a big triangle. So if you want to, you can just start to paint a big triangle and fill it in. And you can make a nice big pine tree. Isn't that pretty? A pine tree in a snowy background. And if you want to make it a little bit more ruffly, like you can see all the little branches coming off, after you paint your triangle, you can start to add like little lines that come off either side of it. And that maybe makes it look a little bit more like a little pine tree. But you don't have to do that. It's a style choice. Some people like it to have the nice smooth lines, and some people like to have the pine branches kind of coming off the side. So it's up to you. Okay. Aside from that, I think it's really fun just to experiment with painting. So just remember, if you want to keep your colors nice and bright, to make sure you rinse your brush when you switch. If your water is getting kind of murky and muddy, you might need help to refill it so that it's nice and clean again. And if you accidentally make a mistake, so let's say that you are having so much fun painting and you accidentally kind of mix all of these colors together and they start to get all one color. See, they're kind of making this one sort of messy color, and then if I try to paint with it, they're all going to be the same. And if I want my bright orange, oh no, I don't have my bright orange anymore. It's kind of this muddy purple color, isn't it? So if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal. We can try to fix it. So you can ask your family if there is a rag or like a paper towel or something that you're allowed to use. And what you do is get it wet again, and then we can take our paper towel or rag and just kind of wipe it, and then it's nice and clean again. So if you accidentally muddy up your paint palette, you can kind of wipe it off and try again. And it doesn't matter if your paper plate gets messy, right? That's okay. It's meant to get messy. That's how art is. So have fun painting and enjoy the process.